Right. So now you've not welcomed the new bus fares announced by the RTSA because this was not agreed in your last meeting. What exactly was agreed in terms of bus fares during the consultative meeting that you had?
Thank you so very much. Yeah, we sat with the RTSA on the 2nd of August, and following the protocol of the Act, which encourages that as the prices of fuel and these other things that affects our businesses happens, we need to sit with RTSA and we propose to them the way forward. And to that effect, we have got a model. It's like a formula that we've adopted. We've sat together with the government and approved way back, and we've been following and using this model for quite some time now. And apparently, when we sat on the 2nd August, we applied the same formula, which it was agreed upon in that meeting, and it was that particular time that RATSA needed to take those proposed fares to the Ministry of Transport and for the approval. So after the approval, surprisingly, we just saw that RATA had, circulated the figures that were not even tabled and discussed in that meeting, and it's between these two differences that RATs are coming up with the figures and hours that is making us to reject. But I want to mention that we are not rejecting and refusing to reduce the prices. We are willing to do it, but we needed to do it together with RTSA in that consultative manner, in a democratic participation, so that stakeholders are part of that decision. I think as it is, where RATSA, a bigger institution, goes and throw things out without exhausting all the avenues of consultation, I think that's why we are seeing these challenges that we are talking about today.
Who else is a part of these consultative meetings that you have? Is it just yourselves and RTSA, or do you also have the Commuters Association coming here? Because, I mean, these are people who usually are affected when you make these decisions on what the prices should be for the bus fares.
Yeah, thank you. Usually, by the law, we're not supposed to include any other associations, but we realize that in terms of transparency and be accounted for, it's vital that we bring on board passengers as well as pedestrians associations and all these other stakeholders, drivers and the stuff like that. They are part of this inclusiveness decision making, and in this particular time, they were present when we were discussing those matters.
And now, what we're hearing from your association, or at least from the drivers, is that there will be downing of tools where they will not move their buses and so on. We've heard this from the drivers, but is this the official position of the Buses and Taxi Owners Association of Zambia?
Yeah, I think personally, as the association, we wouldn't want to encourage to go that direction. We believe we are a business entity, and a day loss for us it's big enough. And we are not closing up the consultative meeting with our government, and we are still open. We wrote a letter to RTSA. We are hoping that they will be able to respond today, and we have a meeting and decide and chart the way forward. So I want to send a signal to operators as well as drivers that that is not the right way to do. Let's go out there and work. We are the ones who help the government to drive the economy. We believe in working and working effectively. So I think we haven't closed up. The government hasn't closed up. So we are not reached that deadlock. So let's go out there and work until we finalize with our government and chart the way forward on this matter.
So, what becomes now the situation for the commuters until you chart the way forward with the Road Transport and Safety Agency? Does it mean you continue the same prices as before, or do you go with what the RTSA have put out as the prices during this period? What exactly will the situation be for the commuters from the position of your association?
I think you agree with me that once the matter has not been concluded, it will not be, the new prices will not be affected. So it means the old fare chart will be applicable. There are situations to this matter where, for example, a route from Kamuchanga to town in Mufurila, it's a 5 kwacha charge, and the rats are proposed to reduce a 5 kwacha. Are you telling me that that transporter is going to make anything? They are going to be transporting passengers for free. There is another case in Ndola, where Chipurukusu to town is the 7 kwacha, a reduction of 5 kwacha. It means it's a 2 kwacha. And I just want to clarify our point of view. A Toyota Hiace, it transports 14 passengers. Now, if you are charging a 2 kwacha, it's 28 kwacha times 2, that is 56 kwacha. And a route to go to town and come back, it will take 3 liters. And 3 liters of diesel today is 24 kwacha 87 ingwe times 3 liters, it will be 74 kwacha. It means that operator or that driver will not have enough money to take him for the route and to come back. That is, we haven't even paid council and the other obligations that we do. So it's in a nutshell, what Rata has done is not showing the actual position that is on the ground there. So that's a situation that we are in.
Okay. Now, do you think that the revision of the bus fare is sustainable every month, each time we get an adjustment of the fuel pump price, be it upwards or downwards?
In an actual situation, it's not giving us the confidence to our passengers. We've written to RTSA a couple of times where we've said, can we perhaps go in 3 months or 6 months? Because it's a take and a loss situation. We cannot, throw this situation to our passengers because information doesn't reach every corner of this country, meaning there will be a person from the village who knows that moving from point A to point B is 10 kwacha. When he goes tomorrow, it is going to be 12 kwacha. And they will not have that 12 kwacha at that particular, because their mind is, knows that it's a 10 kwacha. So it's not the right thing to do. And we are appealing to our government that we can sit together and come up with a model that can speak to maybe 3 months, 4 months, and then we come and adjust.
And speaking of these adjustments of prices, let me come back to that issue you raised of a 5 kwacha reduction being applicable in certain routes where that's the amount. What would you recommend should be the general pricing structure for these routes? Because again, if they reduce by say 1 kwacha or 1 kwacha 15 ngwe, something like that, it might not be a significant difference for the commuter on routes where they pay much more. For example, a route where they have to pay 17 kwacha, a 1 kwacha 15 ngwe reduction will not have so much of an impact for that commuter. So how then does this work best for all the routes being applicable with a reduction?
Okay, it's a dynamic question, and even the sector is dynamic. The model that we apply speaks to each and every route, and I want to mention that fuel, it's not the only cost to our operations, but it's one of the major components that makes our operation costs. So I wouldn't want to go into nitty-gritties of how much we proposed until we sit with the government and agree. But I would want to also mention that I think it's the matter of interest with our government, especially the Ministry of Transport. There is a category, there is a way that we can sit together and try to promote, small business entity on a small scale. We believe that a marketeer who depends on our buses that goes to town every day and comes back needs to be supported. That's how our economy is going to work. What we are talking about is that there are certain fundamentals that government needs to actually reduce, like ZRA. ZRA, it's very expensive, and the system that we apply, it's very costly. You should know that even a vehicle has moved or it hasn't moved, it has to pay tax on that particular time. But towns are dynamic. In the Copper Belt, you find that a bus will not move on a daily basis. It has to move in 3, 4, 5 days afterwards. But in those still days that it hasn't moved, it has to pay tax. And the council levies, all these toll gates. Why don't the government work on the model where they reduce and then approach us and say, guys, we've reduced some of these costs in your businesses. Why don't we sit down together and consider and reduce? That's the way to go, because when they throw us too much like the way they've done, it means thousands of operators who are depending on this business and their subsistence, who depends on this business hand to mouth, they are going to collapse. And that means in the long term, it means that the sector is going to be frustrated. This efficiency that a passenger just goes there and he boards into a bus from point A to point B, it's going to be frustrated. In years to come, there's going to be difficulties. And another point to look at is safety. You find that a passenger will now fail to buy a tire. A passenger will now fail to make remitting to government obligations such as the road tax, RSL, insurance. Those are vital things because of the nature of these costs that Rata wants to come up with and start to introduce the price control to some extent. I hope I've satisfied your answer, sir.
And I know it's a technical one, and which can definitely go into more. But perhaps as we conclude, we know for a fact that RTSA as a government agency would want to consider the welfare of the commuters, of the people generally, and what the people would like to see is a reduction. But on your end, as the bus and taxi owners, yes, you said you are agreeable to reduction, but obviously of a certain amount. So if a conclusion is not seen here on how much it should be, what could the way forward be for your association?
I think we're living in a democratic nation, and we've got leaders, capable leaders. We are hoping that it will not go in that situation. We are hoping that they'll open up doors to resolve this matter as it is, with what Rata have put, have fixed up the prices. It's not ideal. It's not the way that we should go. We will not make a profit. Remember, any businessman or woman, their aim is to make a profit. And when you can only stay in business when you make a profit and reinvest again into business. So if that happens, it means we have to go with the current, fares until we reach a conclusion with our government.